offenses are most often committed by males. In a case study in D.C. of 2,686 serious case crimes, 82% were committed by males. Males are more likely to demonstrate earlier signs of aggressive behavior through bullying of others and engagement in physical action. Many juveniles demonstrate signs of violent behavior before the age of 15, with early onset predicting serious violence down the line. These demographic statistics are linked to environmental factors such as exhibition of antisocial behaviors, example of violence in the home, and life in impoverished neighborhoods or homes. For those who don't quite fit those diagnostics, there is a high chance of false confession through manipulation tactics used to convict adults of crimes, not juveniles. The manipulation used is psychologically taxing. For a juvenile who may already be facing mental health issues, it makes it almost impossible. Oftentimes, these false confessions are unreliable because they are given without attendance of a trusted adult in the juvenile's corner. Juveniles often do not understand the weight of the Miranda rights and are therefore coerced into speaking out of fear. Oftentimes, these false confessions end in plea bargains, which sentence juveniles for crimes without a trial or for crimes they may not have even committed. Roper v. Simmons explains how a juvenile differs from that of an adult because they are relatively more immature and irresponsible, vulnerable to negative pressures from their peers and environment, and fragile and unstable in their identities. According to the Louisiana Law Review, an estimated 200,000 youth are prosecuted, sentenced, or incarcerated as adults across the United States instead of being adjudicated in the juvenile justice system. Through court cases like Roper v. Simmons that outlawed juvenile execution and Graham v. Florida that outlawed the sentencing of a juvenile to life without parole, the court has acknowledged that juveniles are psychologically different than their adult counterparts, but we are still sentencing them to cruel and unjust punishment within our troubled prison systems.
According to the Juvenile Law Center, a day in the life of a child in the justice system can include frequent strip searches, pepper spray, shackling, restraints, and physical abuse from not only fellow inmates but also guards, all with 22 to 24 hours in solitary confinement with nothing but a concrete slab to sleep on. These children are often getting little to no educational services, counseling or therapy, or opportunities to see their family. The Juvenile Law Center states in an article about solitary confinement for children, they may be pepper sprayed for a simple rule violation, strip searched after family visits, or shackled for leaving their rooms. They even go as far as to say that putting children in solitary confinement is government-sanctioned child abuse. Not only are these children not getting the resources they need to develop correctly, but the U.S. justice system for children is systematically abusive and far too heavily reliant on solitary confinement. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, in 2005 alone, there were more than 17 sexual violence allegations for every 1,000 prisoners, with younger prisoners being at the highest risk. It is likely that these statistics severely underestimate the issue because very few cases of sexual violence and abuse are typically reported. Although these conditions will have immense long-term effects on children's minds and well-being, children do not often understand the long-term effects of their decisions or long-term consequences. An article from the Princeton Legal Journal states, research from Stanford shows that children lack cognitive control during emotional situations. She adds that the prefrontal cortex, which is already underdeveloped before the age of 25, is often delayed in children who have been traumatized. These punishments are not something that children can understand the consequences of, therefore do not know how it will affect them later in life.
Oftentimes, after incarceration, youth are more likely to not finish high school or even apply for college. A 2019 study from the U.S. Office of Juvenile Justice estimated that nationwide, only about one-third of youth returning from residential facilities re-enroll in school. The Department of Education found that only about 5% of high school dropouts later try to enroll in college. Not only does incarceration take away from education, but also employment. Why Youth Incarceration Fails claims that incarceration led to lower wages, fewer weeks worked, and less job experience by the age of 39, as well as reduced total educational attainment. This effect on employment also impacts recidivism in released juveniles. Because these youth have no job experience and are sometimes unable to work because of their criminal record, they resort to more crime to reach necessities, but that's not the only cause. A state-by-state review of youth recidivism found that 70 to 80% of youth return to correctional facilities within 3 years. What are juvenile recidivism rates and how can they be reduced? Found that some of the main reasons for return is incarcerated juveniles are more likely to meet other criminals, which requires them to behave in a highly aggressive manner to avoid assault in prison. Incarceration can exacerbate existing mental health issues, and a significant portion of incarcerated people have mental health conditions, like personality disorders and post-traumatic stress, and when placed into systems often made for adults and are not catered to the undeveloped and ill mind, they experience worse health later. UCLA studies support this, saying that health worsens because of prisons. Things like depression become more prone, and incarcerated youth end up with shorter lifespans than their peers. A 2005 study in Cook County, Chicago, Illinois, found that youth who were incarcerated in detention were 4.4 times as likely as compared to their non-incarcerated peers to die between the ages of 15 and 24. Juvenile incarceration creates cruel and unjust punishment, which puts youth into prisons where they experience physical and mental abuse, a decrease in graduation rates, increase in recidivism, and worsens health overall. Therefore, we need prevention and rehabilitation programs and overall change of our view on juvenile justice.